Hey, my handsome ladies and gentlemen, this is Shmeaty. Welcome back to the channel, or welcome if you are new. Let's just get right into it. Is Shadow Obstagoon good in the Great League? Probably not, but I'm going to be running it today because I got a good one, and we're going to be pairing it up with the ubiquitous Shadow Geezing, who is a top-tier Great League Pokemon in the current iteration of the Great League, as well as this Drifblim that I have named a Drift named Slickback. Without further ado, let's just get right into the matches. We're going to be kicking things off with game number 1, leading Shadow Geezing into Furret. Furret is heavily reliant on Sucker Punch and Trailblaze to boost the Sucker Punch fast move pressure, so unfortunately Furret, no pun intended, is going to be a very terrible lead. They are forced to safe switch into a Quagsire here, and I actually thought this was a Gastrodon, seeing the typing at the top right, so I just brought in Drifblim immediately. They bait with an Aqua Tail, which gets called by the Drifblim, and here I have no reason not to shield this up, as this is going to be the much harder hitting Stone Edge, but with that Aqua Tail chip and only being -1, I feel like that could potentiate a KO. So I am going to now undercharge this next Icy Wind, looking for the farm down on the Quagsire. That is not enough. Not nearly enough. They are going to fire off the Aqua Tail, not going to be nearly enough to KO. And now Furret comes back in, but we are just going to bring in Obstagoon, and it is absolutely Goonin time. We are going to fire off this Night Slash onto the Blastoise. This trainer is shielding up their Blastoise in this matchup, and we're going to no-shield the Obstagoon. Absolutely no reason not to. Obstagoon lives the Skull Bash, and this trainer seems as if they're a little unfamiliar with Obstagoon's stat spread, So just for those that may not know, Obstagoon is a bulky Pokemon. It doesn't hit particularly hard, so this trainer shielding Night Slashes is definitely going to be seen as a mistake in this matchup, because they go down 2 shields and now they're going to get hit with a Shadow Ball that hits way harder than any of the moves that Obstagoon could have thrown at it, even though that the Obstagoon is Shadow and the Drifblim is not. We are going to immediately pivot out into our Geezing after letting the Blastoise KO, so I guess that's not really a pivot. I guess I just died and then brought in the Geezing, but nevertheless, we are going to be able to easily no-shield this move, and now play into the winning CMP tie versus the Furret so that we can get the KO with the Brutal Swing. And we've got one final move that we're going to throw at this Blastoise. Anybody in the class want to guess what it is? That's correct, one Fairy Wind and the Sludge, and this is going to be a good game. GG's. The next game, Shadow Geezing is proving its worth on the lead, as it is a Dragonite lead. Love to see it. Everything this Pokemon can throw is double resisted into the Geezing. They stood in, threw a couple Dragon Breaths, and save switched a what is this? You save switched this Shadow Sandslash. What is happening? Shadow Sandslash gets countered down from full, and now they're bringing back in the Dragonite. I overfarm way too riskily and fire off a Night Slash. Dragonite is very glassy. They are very confident in no shielding. We get the boost for the road, but we go down right after that. And now I know their switch timer isn't up, so I'm bringing in the Geezing to absorb all this energy, and now they can potentially save that Dragonite for later, but all it is relegated to doing is catching. And now they bring in Jellicent. We are going to be able to fire off another Brutal Swing here. Brutal Swing would do a sizable amount of chip damage onto the Jellicent if they decide to throw it here. And now one more Fairy Wind and the catch of what would only ever be a Surf onto the Drifblim. Drifblim easily going to absorb the Surf damage, wouldn't have such a good time absorbing a potential Shadow Ball there, but we are in a very nice spot here. Surf is going to be shielded, and they are going to top left. GG's. In the next match, it's a pretty awkward lead for all parties involved, I feel. It is Shadow Geezing into Talonflame. Now, Talonflame does, of course, have a lot of fast move pressure with these Incinerates. We fire off 7 Fairy Winds and the Brutal Swing. Brutal Swing will do a sizable amount of damage onto the Talonflame. However, they are going to no-shield the first, as they very easily know that they could live that. We are now going to go for Brutal Swing number 2. Talonflame quite low. This could potentially be a Sludge that would knock out, but they are going to put up a shield. They're going to fire off a move here, and it is going to be the Fly. They are one Incinerate off the next Fly, but with the order of which we threw those moves, we now have a Brutal Swing. I'm going to fire off another Brutal Swing. Swing nearly KOs. Unfortunately, they no-shield it, knowing it's only going to be a Brutal Swing, and they can barely live it. We safe switch into the Geezing, and unfortunately we are met with a Golisopod. Very problematic for us here. I'm looking to grab that last shield or do some significant damage onto the Golisopod here. Firing off the Shadow Ball straight up, and let's see what the reaction is. Golisopod lets the Shadow Ball go. Maybe not familiar with the hex counts and thinking this bozo only has an Icy Wind. I am not shielding, but that was definitely enough for the Shadow Ball. They're going to fire off a move here. It's going to be the Aqua Jet KOing the G-Zing, but now we're going to get some Obstagoon farm, and it is Goon in time. Once again, we have in the back a Gastrodon, and actually it's not looking like it's Goon in time, boys. I forgot how this game went. We're going to fire off the Night Slash. My only win con here is boosting. They're going to shield up. No boost for me, so this is going to be a very bad time for the boy Obstagoon. They're going to fire off an Earth Power, and that just about KOs. We get new mechanic, and we are going to be able to land this Night Slash, but let's just take a look at this damage. Yeah, you know what, matter of fact, let's just get into the next match. On to the next game. It's going to be Shadow G-Zing leading into a Jellicent. We have the super effective Brutal Swing coverage, and we very massively outpace here, so they are going to safe switch into a Swalot. Not having the best response to Swalot, I decided to stay in here for a little bit and get some chip with a Brutal Swing, and now looks like I'm looking to bank a little bit of energy, then bring in the Drifblim. Now Swalot here is very easily going to be able to two-shot with an Ice Beam. I think the smarter play here may have potentially been going for a shield and then the Icy Wind, so that maybe I could live 2 Ice Beams. I don't know, it would have been very close. 2 Ice Beams just straight up destroy my poor Drifblim. And now we're just going into the Obstagoon, kind of hoping to make some magic happen here. This is only ever going to be a Sludge, so we are going to no-shield the Sludge. And now go for a further 5 counters and the Night Slash. Easily going to be able to win the CMP tie versus the Swalot. And this Night Slash will either KO or grab a shield. We're okay with either, but we are able to grab the KO. We're bringing in the Jellicent into the Pokemon that triple resist Ghost. This is certainly a strategy, especially when the Pokemon that triple resist Ghost has a super effective charge move bank. We are going to be able to switch and catch a Surf onto the G-Zing, and the reason why we did that is because we evidently know if they're bringing in the Jellicent into a Pokemon that triple resist Ghost, that Pokemon must have a lot of play in the back, so we are going to preserve it with that catch, and now just fire off Brutal Swing after Brutal Swing onto the incoming Shadow Registeel, looking for the double up on the Brutal Swings here. Very risky overfarm there. We are going to fire off Brutal Swing number 1, but Brutal Swing number 2 is not going to be able to be fired off. They are going to fire off a move here. This is always going to be a Flash Cannon, I guess. I mean, they have access to the super effective move. Now I'm clicking on my Night Slash button. Night Slash needs to get the job done here. It is going to be shielded by the Jellicent, and now Jellicent makes a last-second move. This is going to be very close. If this Registeel is able to make a move versus the Obstagoon, this game is absolutely over. It does not even need to be the Focus Blast. A Flash Cannon will KO, and it paces quicker, but we get the farm down. GG's to this trainer. A little lead luck is all we need. We're going to lead G-Zing into a Shadow Jumpluff. Jumpluff wants nothing to do with that. Safe switches out into a Shadow Drapion, and this is okay by us. I am going to fire off a Night Slash here onto the Shadow Drapion, kind of hoping for a shield. Unfortunately, no shield is to be. They are going to fire off a move here, and unfortunately, with all the Poison Sting chip they've done, we are very nearly in the double Aqua Tail range. I'm not going to shield my Obstagoon, though. I'm going to either let this Obstagoon go. Yes, we are going to get KO'd there, and now we get the 3 Fairy Wind head start. Now, it is all up to what they have in the back here. This could get tricky. It's going to be more Peko in the back, but up an entire Sludge, I don't know. I don't think G-Zing's in too bad of a spot here. We're going to fire off a Sludge onto the Morpeko. Morpeko has to give up the shield. They're firing off a move. This is very easily going to be the Psychic Fangs, but honestly, the Psychic Fangs would probably do about 90% of the health that I have left there, so not really too comfortable with no shield in that one. Gonna fire off a Sludge onto the Morpeko, and now this game is getting a little dicey as they are going to be able to just go straight for the Psychic Fangs here. I really need to anticipate when they are going to fire off these Psychic Fangs, because if I am not... Oh, they catch the Sludge. That complicates things quite a bit. Here, I realistically probably should try to bank a move. I go one short of banking the move, and this game is now going to be tricky. They could have aerial ace to KO me at any point there, so I tried to switch out into the Driplim as soon as I could. They go for the acrobatics. It does a massive amount of damage onto the Driplim. We're trying to undercharge here, looking to get whatever farm we can. We get 0 farm on the jump up. This is going to be tricky. If we get Thundershock down, this game is over. They cannot Thundershock down. Recognize that and fire off a move onto the Driplim. It is now all up to this. Are we going to be able to outpace the Morpeko? Yes, we are. And I feel like that Morpeko was very close to having a move, but just fell short. Brutal Swing picks up the KO. GG's. Not a bad lead in the next game either. I promise these games aren't cherry-picked. I went 8-2 with this team, and then I like struggled quite a lot. I started getting kind of blasted. Didn't feel very good. Stopped running the team, but here we are in the next game, leading the Gzing into the Annihilate. Annihilate is opting to stay in, which is a very odd play. They are going to fire off the Rage Fist, which gets shielded, and they get farmed down. In comes a Clodsire. I bring in the Obstagoon, and we are met with a Azumarill. I am looking to bluff a move that I don't have here. Unfortunately, I don't even think this is enough. So I bluff the Sludge Wave that we don't have. I think, no, Obstagoon gets Gunk Shot, not Sludge Wave. I fire off another Night Slash, kind of just hoping for a boost so I can ramp up some damage on this Pokemon. Unfortunately, that isn't going to happen either. But we do have alignment. Once we're able to get rid of this Obstagoon, we have the alignment we desire, which is Gzing onto the Azumarill and the Driplim onto the Clodsire. They are going to fire off a move here. I definitely need to... Oh my goodness, we're just letting the Pokemon go. What a treat. In comes the Clodsire. Clodsire is going to be able to outpace us, and I'm over here thinking that I have this game in the bag. They're not on Stone Edge, but they are on Stone Edge, and that complicates this game quite a bit, as we're going to be able to fire off an Icy Wind here, but the Clodsire still has a shield, and this is going to be a problem. They are going to fire off another move on pretty poor timing there, so I am able to get most of a Hex free. They fire off a Stone Edge. I'm going for an Icy Wind on 3 here. Icy Wind onto the Clodsire. Not nearly going to do enough damage to KO here. We will need an entire other move. I'm looking to go for the Shadow Ball. Harder hitting Shadow Ball onto the Clodsire is going to be pretty nice for us. It does pick up the KO, and we have the Sludge banked. So even though Switch will take a turn here, the bubble will never register. The Sludge KOs the Azu. GG's to this trainer. Getting into the next game, I swear Gzing is just protecting me from losing all my elo on the lead. We are going to see the Clefable lead, save Switch Morpeko. What a team composition from the opposing trainer. They are going to fire off a Wheelio onto the Shadow Obstagoon. It does a lot of damage, but not a lot enough, as we are going to be able to tank the Wheelio and the boosted Thundershock to make a Night Slash, and now force a very important decision from the Peko. Peko doesn't shield to preserve Switch, so there's a Weezing, a Shadow Weezing perpetually locked onto this Clefable trainer. What is this play? They are going to still potentially have access to Meteor Mash here, so I am going to shield up, because a Meteor Mash would remove this Pokemon that I feel like has a lot of play if they're bringing this in. It is going to be a Shadow Jump Fluff and back, and this game is cooked, unfortunately, for the opposing trainer, because we are doubled up on the Sludge. Sludge number 1 grabs the shield, and now we are going to attempt to play into the CMP tie and successfully do so, as Sludge number 2 is going to do a massive amount of damage onto the Jump Fluff. This one not Shadow, I don't believe. I did say it was Shadow, but I'm kind of not looking that hard. And now in comes the Driplim. All my will to continue the battle would go away as well. GG's. Now, little Timmy, I already see you typing your detractory comment in the comment section, and that's okay. I know, you're like, Mr. Content Man, all you do is post the good games, and you never show us when you misplay. You just keep doing this thing, and you like to cherry pick your games, and you like to run these dumb Pokemon, and this is a waste of time and Stardust. Alright, Timmy, now that you've got it out your system, Obstagoon is in no way going to be able to flip this matchup. Obstagoon's main problem in the Great League is its really poor pacing for Open Great League standards. I think something like giving it Shadow Claw would help it out a lot. I'm not sure if that would be too strong. Probably. I haven't run sims on it or anything like that, because I'm not that invested in Obstagoon. But I think that could be something that could help it quite a bit. But it probably would be everywhere, and everybody would be tired of it in 2 weeks. That's kind of just the Pokemon Go Battle League community's like song and dance. Like, oh my god, this Pokemon's super based, and then in 2 weeks we hate it. And nevertheless, we're going to fire off a Brutal Swing onto the Talonflame. Talonflame forced to give up a shield, and now another Brutal Swing is going to force this Talonflame's hand. Do I get another shield? Do I get a KO? They are going to shield it up now. We are going to switch into the Drifblim. We have 2 Fairy Winds stored there. We have to see what it is they have in the back. I believe it was the Azumarill from earlier on in the game. They are going to be able to fire off another move here. I think the intelligent play here is letting this move go and trusting in the Jeezing, but my Jeezing's health is so low that it might actually unironically get bubbled down there. I'm going to look for the double Shadow Ball, but because we're not Shadow, we're not going to be able to KO with the double Shadow Ball, and this is painful. We're going to fire off another Shadow Ball here. Shadow Ball just isn't enough. We don't have enough in the tank. We bring in the Jeezing without enough energy, and Azu's going to make an Ice Beam, and we're getting bubbled down or Ice Beamed. Either one, Azu's got this game in the bag. GG's to this trainer. I unfortunately thoroughly misplayed, but they took good advantage of it. Getting into the next game, we've made it to the final game of the video, and it is Shadow Jeezing leading into Dugong. Now, Dugong is not the most comfortable matchup for Shadow Jeezing here, but I am going to fire off my Sludge on 14 turns, which is 7 Fairy Winds. Right before the Dugong's able to make their own move, they're going to fire off a move immediately here. It's very likely to be an Icy Wind, but realistically, if they drill run me there, I'm just immediately down my entire Jeezing, and this is far too valuable a Pokemon if you're running it to let it go down that easily. So they are going to be able to no-shield the next Sludge because of the Icy Wind debuff, and now I'm going to be able to make a last-second Brutal Swing and now switch into the Obstagoon. Obstagoon is going to be able to sneak a counter, so this Dugong's going down, and they went for the Drill Run as opposed to an Icy Wind. That is massive for us. In the back, it's going to be Serperior getting switched into the Obstagoon. This is pretty fine by us. Unfortunately, this is probably the worst place for the Serperior to end up, and now we get the boost, so Serperior recognizes we get the boost, has to immediately throw energy at the Obstagoon in fear of potentially taking too much counter damage, but there's nowhere good for the Serperior to go in the back. I am going to now bring in a Drift named Slickback, and it is all up to Drifblim. Unfortunately, it is a Drapion in the back, so I don't know how many miracles our Drift is going to be able to make, but I don't know. But let's just see it play out. We need a hero here, Drift. We're gonna fire off one Hex and hope for an Icy Wind here. We are going to shield up the Crunch. They get the debuff. That is not the best situation for us. And now we're going to go for Icy Wind number 1. Icy Wind is going to get some significant damage on the Drapion. Icy Wind number 2, that is, because they shielded up with their last shield, the first Icy Wind. They bring in the Serperior, and I have one win con. If Serperior is not 100% dry here, I lose this game. They fire off the Frenzy Plant. They are 5 off of their next move. We go to 100 energy, and you know what 100 energy means? We have the Icy Wind and the Shadow Ball bank. Drifblim will win CMP over the incoming Drapion, and although you have the move banked, you're not gonna win this game. GG's. If you made it to this point in the video, thank you so much for watching. It really means a lot to me, and I just wanted to run Obstagoon for the memes. I think it has some solid play into some of the top meta Pokemon, but realistically, as it stands right now, Obstagoon isn't very good. Like I said earlier in the video, one of the things that can save it is potentially giving it Shadow Claw, but I know that they have to be very careful with updates like that because it could become top meta in every single format and ruin everybody's day. With all that being said, thanks once again so much for watching. I've been Shmeaty. I hope to see you all again next time, and have a good rest of your day. Bye.